It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of January 3rd, 2003, or as I like to do at the beginning of every year, the 2002 leftovers. We're starting a brand new year. This first weekend of the year is usually the slowest weekend with not a whole lot of new releases. We do have one new release to get to. We'll get to that in just a second. But I've got the list here, and there's even more that's not included on this list. And I'm just going to say it right now. Disney went direct-to-video crazy in 2002. I've got 5 movies from Disney that were direct-to-video sequels that we have to look at today. And most of these are going to be direct-to-video sequels. Some movies that were limited releases, didn't make a ton of money. Didn't make a ton of money overall, but they're notable films for a number of different reasons. And we've got 10 films overall to look at here, so we've got a lot to get to here, and I'm already wasting most of your time right now by doing this intro, but let's go ahead and jump right to it, and let's get to that one new release from this particular weekend, and that is George Clooney's directorial debut, and that is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Directed by George Clooney, written by Charlie Kaufman, who was already having a pretty good year at the end of the year with an adaptation coming out. This is based off of Chuck Barris's 1984 unauthorized autobiography of the same name, which he claimed to be an assassin for the CIA, in addition to his show business career, and those allegations have since been denied by the CIA. Barris, throughout his life, generally refused to say whether the claim was true or not, and you have Sam Rockwell as Chuck Barris, and you see Drew Barrymore, Julia Roberts, and George Clooney among the cast in the film. And this was a film that was very much in development hell for a number of different years. I mean, this thing goes all the way back to the 1980s when the book came out. I mean, Columbia Pictures was originally going to do it, and then a couple years, about a decade later, it was purchased by somebody else. And they had all these different directors involved. David Fincher was attached at one point, Brian De Palma, Bryan Singer. There was a number of different actors, Mike Myers, Ben Stiller, Johnny Depp. And George Clooney came on board to direct and actually brought Chuck Barris in here to provide additional authenticity, even though it's been pretty much determined that it was probably BS overall. But it does make for an intriguing movie overall. I mean, the film really is good. And for somebody like George Clooney, who has never directed a movie up to this point, it definitely shows the signs that, hey, he's got some directing chops. And he would later show that down the road with Good Night and Good Luck, and then Leatherheads, and then The Ides of March. His last movie, Downsizing, wasn't that great overall, but he's made a pretty good career of directing movies in general. But yeah, everything up to I'm looking at his directing films here, and everything after. And now he didn't do Downsizing; he did Suburbicon, which came out the same year, but kind of had the same taste of this wasn't that great overall. In fact, most of his movies that he directed after The Ides of March were not great overall. The Monuments film was kind of a disappointment. Suburbicon, The Midnight Sky, The Tender Bar. The Boys in the Board, though, isn't bad, though. I haven't seen that one yet, but as far as this one goes, it works very well. Sam Rockwell does a very good job playing the role of Chuck Barris. Julia Roberts, Drew Barrymore, George Clooney, they all act very well here. It's a nice film that looks like a crime comedy straight out of the 1970s. I mean, it's a film that definitely knows how to make the 1960s and 70s look like they do here, even though this is made in 2002. They do a great job of the period piece aspect of it. It's a really good film, a criminally underrated movie in my opinion. It's a film that doesn't get the proper respect I think it deserves, but it definitely shows what George Clooney is capable of as a director overall, and I think it's a very good film overall. So I do recommend Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and it's the first of the many, many, many Disney sequels we're going to get to here. Let's start off with the one that came out first, and that is Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True.
It was the moment that changed her life forever, taking her to a place she'd never been, to a life she dared only dream about. Discover what comes after Happily Ever After as Walt Disney's most enchanting fairy tale continues. Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True. the life of an ordinary girl becomes extraordinary in an all-new full-length adventure.
I have to try this my way.
Featuring your favorite characters from one of Disney's greatest treasures, Cinderella.
Maybe it's time to start following your heart.
Now this is more like it.
And a new rendition of the Oscar-nominated classic, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, together with 3 brand new songs. The magic lives on.
Someday I'll get this princess thing right.
I think that day is today.
Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True. Premiering only on Disney DVD and video, February 26, 2002.
And I think I know why there's so many different movies here. Most of the movies that we're going to look at today have been mostly direct-to-video sequels that are technically not movies in general. They're mostly anthologies. Some you can even make the argument that they're mostly just episodes of a TV show, which we'll get to those down the road, especially later on in the year. But yeah, this is definitely one of those ones that feels like a film that is really feels like it was supposed to be the intended pilot for a TV series. You have 3 segments featuring Cinderella planning a party, Jack the Mouse being turned into a human and living as Cinderella's page boy, and one of Cinderella's brutal stepsisters, Anastasia, reaching her redemption through falling in love with a young baker, a low-class man of whom Lady Tremaine and Drusilla do not approve of. And yeah, it got a bad rap when it came out. Most people who saw the film gave it really negative reviews overall, and a lot of people really do hate this movie, but I don't know. I thought it was alright for what it was. Yeah, it's not a great movie per se, but honestly, it's not as bad as I think people let on. I mean, there's definitely some signs here that this felt like the remains of a rejected TV show, but honestly, I didn't really have a problem with it in this movie. I know we had Belle's Magical World, which was kind of that a couple years ago, and then later on in the year, like I said, we're going to have a couple of movies that are very much like a rejected TV series and putting all the episodes together into one movie. Yeah, it really isn't great overall, but I thought it was overall really good. I thought the animation overall was pretty good. They got some really good voice actors to do these roles now, considering that the original Cinderella came out in the 1950s, and then you have Jennifer Hale, who you've seen as a prolific voice actor on many things, most notably the Powerpuff Girls. She does a pretty good job of handling the role of Cinderella here, and I think everybody in here does a really good job of keeping in the way that you would think that this, like, I know it's completely different actors, but it does feel like they sound closer to who the original actors and actors were in the 1950s version. They do a pretty good job of handling that. There are some intriguing stories in here. Probably the best one overall is the redemption arc for Anastasia. Like, I like that these sequels have been able to continue her arc overall, that she's not really a bad person overall. And I like how this was the start of it, and then Cinderella 3, that's where they really kind of turned it around. Which I gotta say, Cinderella 3 was the one that I always used to hate. That was always the one that I used to feel like was the weakest of the 3 films. We'll eventually get to that one once we reach 2008, but I'm going to tell you right now, my viewpoint has kind of changed on a little bit here. I don't think it's as bad as I made it out to be. I can see why everybody likes that one over this one easily, and I would say I would tend to agree with it now. But we'll save that for about 6 years' time when we get to 2008. But I really don't get why this one gets such a beating, though. It's not a bad movie. I mean, they put out worse direct-to-video movies, and this one certainly doesn't belong on that list. One movie that deserves to be on that list, though, is our next movie, and that is one that literally came out a month after this one did, and that is The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2.
Return to all the wonder and majesty of Disney's classic masterpiece as the story continues in an all-new animated movie, The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, featuring the returning all-star voice talent of Demi Moore, Kevin Kline, Tom Hulse, and introducing Haley Joel Osment as Zephyr and Jennifer Love Hewitt as Quasimodo's new friend, Madeline.
Yeah, when you think of the worst Disney direct-to-video sequels, this will usually be at the top of the list, and I can't say I can't argue that. I really cannot, because it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So in the sequel, now that Frollo is gone, Quasimodo rings the bell with the help of his new friend and Esmeralda and Phoebus' little son, Zephyr, played by Haley Joel Osment. Oh, I'm sorry, introducing Haley Joel Osment, because, you know, clearly he hadn't done anything of noteworthiness before this, not The Sixth Sense or AI Artificial Intelligence. Now that this is the first time we're introducing him to the movies, and yeah, that's I always found that kind of amusing. But when Quasi stops by a traveling circus owned by an evil magician played by Michael McKean, he falls for Madeline, voiced by Jennifer Love Hewitt, who's his assistant. But greedy Saroche forces Madeline to help him steal the cathedral's most famous bell. And like I said, whenever anybody talks about the bad Disney direct-to-video sequels, this is usually one of those big ones to try to avoid, and for good reason, because it's pretty bad. For starters, I think the trailer pretty much shows you everything wrong with the movie. One, it shouldn't exist. Two, the animation looks like something on a scale of a TV show instead of the grandiose spectacle of the first movie. I mean, there are still shots in that first Hunchback of Notre Dame movie that are still amazing to watch, even after all these years. This, I couldn't believe that TMS, of all studios, was the animation company behind this. I mean, I think Doug Walker made the point that it feels like a movie that would have been on the Disney Afternoon, because they did a lot of the Disney Afternoon shows, TMS did. And you don't hire TMS to do animation like this. This is the studio that did Akira. This is the studio that did Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Gargoyles, Batman, DuckTales. They've done way better than this. You don't hire them to do a movie like this. The story is really lame, too. We're basically doing the same story structure with the first movie, except with a love interest for Quasimodo now involved. And I don't have a problem with giving Quasimodo a love interest. Let him fall in love with somebody. But the way this movie does it, there's no thought or creativity to it whatsoever. It's just, let's rehash the first movie all over again, add a few little cheap changes to it, and let's have the liar reveals because we think it's an original story, or at least we're going to make you think it's an original story, and lo and behold, this is what we get here. Here's the biggest thing about this whole thing. This thing wastes the entire cast from the first movie. A lot of the cast, all-star cast too. I mean, we're not just talking about stock characters overall. No, they had the nerve to bring back Kevin Kline and Demi Moore to be in this movie, to serve no purpose whatsoever. They literally do nothing in this. They are really thrown off to the side in this one so much that you have to wonder what the hell they were thinking bringing them back for just these minuscule lines. They hardly say a damn thing in this. I mean, it's like when they brought Jodie Foster in to do the voice of Maggie for a 30-second bit on The Simpsons during the dark years, if you will. I mean, it just feels really pointless. Yeah, Tom Hulse has a reason to be there. He's Quasimodo. But Demi Moore and Kevin Kline? Like, I mean, you gotta give them more than that. These are two... I mean, Kevin Kline's an Academy Award winner. Demi Moore is one of the big movie stars of the time period. I mean, it's just like, what are they doing here? But the music overall is very generic and cliche, too. I'll give the film this, though. The score, I think, is very good. The score by Carl Johnson, who did Gargoyles, it's nicely done. And, I'm not gonna lie, I really like this song. So yeah, chalk that one up into the category of surprisingly really good songs and terrible, terrible movies. You know, it kind of reminds me of that song that they added into the live-action Aladdin remake, which is not a bad song. The song's Speechless, and it's not a bad song, just not the best placement in the movie, because literally after that song takes place, the whole thing is just immediately tossed aside, and they just go back to doing the thing that they did before, and the song becomes absolutely pointless. I mean, it's pointless in the movie, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to say here. So, yeah, Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, yeah, that's one of those Disney direct-to-video sequels where you should just stay the hell away from it, because, yeah, it's not very good. So, with that said, let's break away from the Disney direct-to-video sequels for a little bit here and move on to our next movie, and that is Sacha Baron Cohen bringing his character, the Ali G show, to the big screen in Ali G Indahouse.
this year.
Hey, you, listen.
See Ali G like you've never seen him before.
So Ali G, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, unwittingly becomes a pawn in evil Chancellor David Carleton's plot, the Chancellor played by Charles Dance, to overthrow the Prime Minister of Great Britain, played by Sir Michael Gambon. However, instead of bringing down the Prime Minister, Ali is embraced by the nation as the voice of youth and realness, making the Prime Minister and his government more popular than ever. And that trailer I had to cut down because there's some stuff in there that I don't really think I can get away with here. I mean, even the little bit that I took from that trailer was just like, okay, maybe that's a little too much. Maybe I should cut that out because, yeah, this thing deserves its R rating. And as far as as a movie by Sacha Baron Cohen, it's definitely one of the lesser ones. I mean, I still think Bruno's probably the weakest one of the bunch, but this is probably the second worst one. I mean, it's not a bad movie per se. It just kind of reminds me too much of a little bit of Bean, except if Bean wasn't taking place in America. I mean, it's fine. Sometimes you get a good laugh here and there. The raunchy humor does work on occasion, but I mean, it's just an okay movie in general. There's nothing really about it that I would say is truly incredible. Nothing that made me laugh out loud. It's just like, if you've seen the Ali G show, you pretty much have seen everything that they can do in this movie. I mean, it doesn't really up the ante compared to what the show did. I mean, it was on HBO here in the U.S., but I don't know. For what it is, it's fine. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing, but a good fun time all around here. Definitely one of the lesser Sacha Baron Cohen movies, easily. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Stolen Summer.
From the writers and producer of Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Chris Moore.
This is where my quest starts.
Stolen Summer.
This film is most notable for being the first film taken from Project Greenlight to become a movie, and you follow the story of an 8-year-old Catholic boy growing up in the suburbs of Chicago in the mid-1970s, attending Catholic school. Where his classes let off for the summer, he's admonished by a nun to follow the path of the Lord and not that of the devil. Perhaps taking the message a bit too seriously, he decides it's his goal for the summer to help someone get into heaven, having been told that Catholicism is the only sure path to the kingdom of the Lord. Pete decides to convert a Jew to Catholicism, I think I'm saying that right, in order to improve the standing in the afterlife. Hoping to find a likely candidate, he begins visiting a nearby synagogue where he gets to know Rabbi Jacobson, who responds to Pete's barrage of questions with good humor. Pete's also making friends with the rabbi's son, Danny, who's about the same age, and he learns that Danny is seriously ill. He decides Danny would be an excellent choice for conversion. When the priest at Pete's church informs Pete that all will be tested before they pass the pearly gates, he sets up a mini decathlon to put Danny in training as he attempts to reshape his spiritual thinking. Pete's parents aren't sure just what to make of Pete's new summer project as they become acquainted with Rabbi Jacobson. They share their perspectives on the unexpected trials of parenting. The film's casting department considered the casting of the Jewish kid Adie Stein as the Catholic Peter O'Malley an ironic joke to the characters attempting to convert a Jewish boy to Catholicism. And I can't really complain about say the same thing. I can't really say that they're not wrong on that. But as far as the film itself goes, it's not an Oscar bait type of film where it's a cliched little mess, but certainly isn't a great movie by any means necessary. I get what they're trying to do here. There are some interesting ideas here and there, and sometimes the casting can work very well. I like seeing Bonnie Hunt doing something a little bit outside of her normal shtick that she usually does. Kevin Pollak I thought was really good as Rabbi Jacobson. Aidan Quinn's pretty good in the movie too. It's a decent film, but nothing that I would say is a classic by any means necessary. But if you want to see something from the Project Greenlight guys that actually made it to the big screen, I think one or two of their movies actually made it, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get to the other one with the Battle of Shaker Heights in 2003. But other than that, though, Stolen Summer's not bad. Not great either, but it's fine for what it is. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Tarzan and Jane. Back to the Disney direct-to-video sequels we go.
Disney's Tarzan captured our imagination and carried us away to a world of adventure. The story continues in an all-new movie. Starring your favorite characters.
Decide to guide these lives, we share.
Tarzan and Jane, premiering only on Disney DVD and video. July 9th, 2002.
I hope you enjoyed the intro to the Legend of Tarzan series. The trailer was literally nothing but the opening of the Legend of Tarzan, which I do remember watching the show a little bit, and I didn't mind it so much. I thought the intro was the best thing about it, quite honestly. But yeah, remember when I said that there was going to be some Disney direct-to-video films that were literally just episodes of the show rehashed into a movie? This right here. After being married an entire year, Jane thinks back of some of her and Tarzan's adventures as she searches for someone special to mark the occasion with. That's it. That's really all the movie is. I mean, the biggest problem with the movie is that it's just that. They sold it as a straight-up sequel when it's just a preview of the TV show. I mean, the show was already on the air when this came out. I mean, this was a film that was just kind of like... I mean, they did a similar thing with Hercules. When the Hercules show came out, they had the Zero to Hero movie, which came out a year after the animated series premiered, and this was being sold as the official sequel to Tarzan. I mean, it was one of their biggest hits, and one of the biggest mismarketing attempts Disney had ever done. Well, I take that back, because they had some notable false advertisements with The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast that you could easily look up, like, there's the one for The Little Mermaid where King Triton fights Ursula, and he doesn't do that in the movie. In fact, he loses the battle before it even begins. And then with Beauty and the Beast, there was a ton of those ads that were completely false advertising. The movie isn't bad per se, but it definitely is an obvious cash grab. And we did eventually get a sequel, which in turn was actually a prequel a couple years later down the road, which is better, but what we get here is just okay, I guess, with the show hard to find nowadays, and I guess this is the best way you can watch some of those episodes. I mean, it's nothing amazing, it's nothing incredible, but if you remember the original Legend of Tarzan series, you'll probably enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, other than that, though, I really don't have much more to say about this, honestly. It's just kind of a letdown altogether when you really look at it, so... Let's go ahead and take a look at another direct-to-video movie, not by Disney, but Sony. Sony entered the direct-to-video game this time around with Kermit Swamp Years.
Jim Henson Home Entertainment. Every tadpole has a tale. Every frog has a first adventure. Come home to the swamp where it all began. Discover a Kermit you never knew as he discovers a new world for the very first time. On the adventure that changed his life and ours forever. Kermit's Swamp Years.
I mean, technically Disney does own the Muppets now, but this is one of the few things that Sony still has the film rights to. And you have a young Kermit and his best friends who travel outside their homes in the swamps of the Deep South to do something extraordinary with their lives. And if you told me that this was a prequel to the Kermit the Frog that we know, I would have never guessed it, because they did not do anything completely different to make this Kermit look anything different compared to the other Kermit. I mean, the only thing that looks different about him is that his eyes are a little bit closer and his face looks a little bit condensed down, unlike the original Kermit. But other than that, though, there's nothing really all that different between this Kermit and the Kermit that we know and love today. And I think that's the biggest problem with the movie itself. It's kind of a mediocre, pointless story altogether. None of the characters are really all that memorable. You don't really get a sense that this is a young Kermit the Frog. I mean, it still feels like the Kermit the Frog that we know today. And nothing about the movie really feels that engaging or interesting. I mean, I'll give it this. It was putting more effort into this than they did with something like Adventures in Elmo and Grouchland or Muppets from Space, where they actually took their time to actually make something out of it. But other than that, though, there's not really much more I can say about this one. It's fine, I guess, but I don't know. For a prequel starring Kermit the Frog, you kind of expect a little bit more creativity, at least in the way that you try to distance the young Kermit to the older Kermit. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me nitpicking a little bit here. But other than that, though, that's more than I can say about this film. So back to some direct-to-video Disney films. Here's Mickey's House of Villains. the second of the two House of Mouse movies that came out over the span of a year in 2001 and 2002, except this time around it's Halloween night, and the House of Mouse and a lot of villains show up, and Jafar has a trick up his sleeve with the usual heroes, but the villains have to wait until midnight to do it, and they show the cartoons, and then essentially they take over the House of Mouse, changing it to the House of Villains, and I think you can pretty much figure out what the rest of the movie is basically. If you saw the Magical Christmas one, you get pretty much the same thing here, a mix of both the original classic Mickey Mouse cartoons mixed in with the cartoons from Mickey Mouse Works, and really not much more I can really say about this one that really isn't in the last movie. I mean, it's cool to see all the villains together into one movie, which I think is a fun idea, and seeing Mickey going up against Jafar at the end is kind of a fun concept overall, but other than that, though, I mean, it has a lot of the same problems that Tarzan and Jane has. It promises itself as an original movie, but most of the time, half of the stuff is recycled animation from the past. I mean, that's really all I could say about it. But again, it is kind of cool to see all the villains together in this one movie. I mean, that makes it kind of fun in the long run. But yeah, I mean, if you like the House of Mouse, like I remember watching it when it was on the Disney Channel a lot back in the day, mostly because it wasn't on my ABC affiliate at the time. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but again, I didn't think it really left much of a lasting impact on me personally, but I could see why it has this loyal fan base. I mean, it would be, I mean, I really think I agree with everybody else. Why isn't House of Mouse on Disney Plus? I mean, what are they really trying to hide for the fact that this isn't on Disney Plus for no reason whatsoever? But I don't know. I don't know why it's not on Disney Plus. Disney Plus, get on that, man. I mean, it's been almost 5 years now. I mean, come on. But yeah, not much more I could say to this one that hasn't already been said already. So that is Mickey's House of Villains. So let's go to another direct-to-video sequel that promotes itself as an all-new full-length original film, which is not exactly. That's Winnie the Pooh in a Very Merry Pooh Year.
This fall, premiering only on Disney DVD and video. Winnie the Pooh and all of his friends in a brand new full-length adventure. Disney's Winnie the Pooh, A Very Merry Pooh Year. Come along as we take a sneak peek at the family holiday event of the season. This special full-length movie is a heartwarming journey of lifelong friends. Learn the value of resolution. Resolutions.
Oh, your resolutions, Pooh. It's a promise to be a better person in the new year.
Share the spirit of Christmas and New Year's with the ones you love, featuring newly recorded holiday songs. Join the celebration of friendship. We are going to bring Christmas to everyone in Disney's Winnie the Pooh, A Very Merry Pooh Year. Coming November 12th, 2002.
So kind of like with Seasons of Giving, this is kind of a rehashing of various things. But unlike Seasons of Giving, which was literally a rehashing of various things, like the Winnie the Pooh specials, the Thanksgiving special, and a couple of episodes of the TV show, they rehashed the Winnie the Pooh Christmas special, Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2. Except in this case, they play the special as it is, except that Christopher Robin's not the same voice actor from the original version of it. They actually redubbed his voice, which, to be fair, he's not in it for a whole lot, but it's still very noticeable when you really think about it. But they do add another short here, which is a Happy Pooh Year, which is basically where Winnie the Pooh and the gang, they decide that, you know, to kind of get off Rabbit's case for a little bit here, they basically decide to try new personalities. So, Pooh basically vows to never eat honey again, Piglet agrees to be brave, Tigger vows to not bounce anymore, and Eeyore promises to be more positive, and they basically have these situations where they switch personalities. I mean, Pooh literally becomes gloomy and downbeat like Eeyore, Piglet becomes zany and bouncy like Tigger, Eeyore develops a taste for honey, Tigger becomes paranoid like Piglet. I mean, a clever, fun idea overall when you really look at it, and I mean, I'll give them credit for at least some originality to it, and like I said, it's better than the other movie mostly because it does do stuff that's different from the last movie. And you also get kind of a sneak preview of Carly Simon's music that she brings into the upcoming Pooh theatrical films, because this is the first time you hear her involved with a Pooh production, and she would be involved with Piglet's big movie and then later Pooh's Heffalump movie. So there is that as well. So overall, it's a good, fun little film. I mean, it definitely has a lot more to offer than Seasons of Giving, but then again, most of the Pooh movies have something fun to give to the audience that's watching it. So, yeah, not much more to say about that one. Winnie the Pooh, A Very Merry Pooh Year. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last movie here. Welcome to Collinwood.
Lead a life of crime. You better know what you're doing. Critics are calling Welcome to Collinwood a must-see movie. 4 out of 4 stars. Who knew crime could be this funny? The most delightfully daffy crime comedy since Fargo. Hilarious. And the funniest film of the year. I think I'm gonna be sick. Welcome to Collinwood.
Why are you dressed like a priest? You're an idiot.
So this movie is notable, obviously, for one particular reason, that it's directed by 2 guys named Anthony and Joe Russo, who you may know pretty well nowadays because they've directed episodes of Arrested Development and various other TV shows, but they've also directed some of the biggest blockbusters of the last decade, including Captain America the Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War. So these guys have evolved since this movie came out, and the plot of this movie concerns a group of small-time thieves and misfits from the Collinwood neighborhood of Cleveland who attempt to carry out a major theft from a jeweler's apartment sale. And you see a cast that includes William H. Macy, Isaiah Washington, Sam Rockwell, Michael Jeter, Louis Guzman, Patricia Clarkson, George Clooney, Jennifer Esposito, Gabrielle Union, a stacked cast overall in this film. And, it's a pretty underrated little gem. It's a film that I don't think a lot of people really know exists, especially when you consider the big cast that it has here. I mean, George Clooney is in this film, and nobody even knows what it is. And the film overall is legitimately funny. I really went into it not expecting a whole lot, but it's pretty good. It's a really little good underrated gem of a film. I mean, it's a movie that is very funny, very clever at times, can be very silly when it needs to be, and I think it works pretty well for what it's trying to accomplish here. It's a shame that nobody went to see it the first time around, but I think if you want to see some more of the, considering what the Russo brothers have done since then, I think it's really interesting to go back and see how it all began for them, because they did a pretty good job of handling this. I think this is a criminally underrated film that definitely deserves a lot more attention. I highly recommend checking it out. Welcome to Collinwood. Definitely seek it out, because it is definitely worth the watch. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll get to our first major new release of 2003 on the next episode, as we'll look at one new movie, Ashton Kutcher and Brittany Murphy in the romantic comedy Just Married. It was the only big new release that came out, so we'll definitely delve into that one on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.